I'm Mike Reed from GE's Healthcare Division. I'm here today with my colleague Manny Gopalakrishnan. We're here to talk about GE's BrilliantYOU strategy and how we've transformed or working on transforming our learning and development at GE. So in the last couple of years, we've seen a significant seismic shift in the learning environment, both external and internal to GE. There's significant disruption in the marketplace, and we've been forced to become a 125-year-old startup executing a digital industrial strategy. Our culture has to become agile. We have to be able to fail and learn and innovate off of those failures. And our HR organization is dealing with significant changes in how our people develop and learn. The skills that our people need today are different than they have been in the past. We're moving from product excellence and process excellence, which has been a hallmark of how GE operates in the past, to more design thinking. We have to be able to code. We have to be able to build on agile development. And our employees have to change with that. 65% of our employees at General Electric are outside the US. We have multiple generations in our workforce and significant diversity, both ethnic and geographic. Really, we have to look at our people and figure out how do we prevent them from overloading, and really how do we reboot our employee base. If we look at our learning platform and our learning environment, what worked in the past doesn't work in the future. Today, we still have a lot of event-driven learning events, e-learning heavy. We have an LMS that most of our content is in, and we spend a lot of time looking around for new solutions and perhaps often hooking on to the latest fad and trend rather than developing a true strategy around learning. And through all of this, we try to hang on to the value that's been out there with past systems that may not really exist for our people today. So where do we need to go? We really need to build something that's frictionless for our people. They're able to insert themselves and individualize their learning and get after how they want to learn in their own way. It needs to be social, it needs to be mobile, and it has to be continuous. We're really looking at a way to go after a daily digital habit for our people as they learn throughout their career, throughout the day, and make it part of the way they work. I'm going to turn it over now to Manny, who's going to talk about how we're doing that.
Thanks, Mike. My name is Manny Gopalakrishnan. I'm the Senior Leader for Digital Learning and Technology at GE. I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm humbled to have had the opportunity to lead this rather great initiative called BrilliantYOU. At BrilliantYOU, we're focused, our mission is to basically connect employees to world's best learning. We've been in this journey for about a year, and we could have gone about various different ways to talk about this. We chose these 5 big themes, and in a very juvenile way, we've called it A, B, C, D, and E. And we're hoping that this is going to resonate and hopefully become a playbook for you guys as you go back and start looking at how to incorporate digital into your learning strategy. Let's start with the Agile team. What we pulled together is at the intersection of marketing, knowledge management, and education. And we truly believe that that's the future of learning. It's going to be at the intersection of these various ecosystems. So the team that we pulled together was rather unconventional in the sense that it did not include the traditional learning resources only. We certainly had them to provide the learning expertise, but we had a product management, typically the role that I would play in. We had user experience experts. And as a matter of fact, the individual who does our user experience is a legal professional, but she just loves people side of it and likes to simplify things, irony, and so she is into user experience. We have a dev technology team, a data scientist who's on the hobby basis right now. We don't have him on full time. We have a social community manager. And if you think about traditional learning in the sense you wouldn't have a community manager as part of the core team, but we do have. And we have marketing and media specialists, as well as an ecosystem partner, because we truly believe that in this world, learning is going to be driven mostly as an ecosystem. Now, here's the key differentiator. We made employees as part of our learning team. We have anywhere from 20 to 150 employees on our rolls all the time, and we consult them, and none of our initiative gets launched without being vetted through a sample employee profile. We ourselves operate as a startup, and we follow a lot of lean startup principles. It was hard, but we got to a point where we make 2 launches every week. So that was the startup, the story of our startup within the Crotonville organization, which, as most of you is known, is rated #1 in the world for many years. Let's now look at the business models. Learning in many ways is a bad guy for how licensing deals are structured. Almost every vendor, if you've been in the industry long enough, knows, comes and sells you business licenses. Licenses for content, licenses for platform, and not one platform meets all your needs, not one content vendor meets all your needs. So what you end up with is this wide array of licenses. What we have had to do in that is to kind of disrupt that business model, and we did that by basically not purchasing any licenses from any provider. We believe in a CapEx to OpEx play, so we only pay for what we use. We set up a marketplace, internal marketplace, in the sense that employees could enter their internal billing code and check out a course, check out a resource, or check out anything just about that's on sale on the platform. And when the employees do that, we get into a revenue share arrangement with the providers, and just like an Apple Store or an Amazon App Store, we get to keep a certain pre-agreed amount of money. That money goes into funding the platform. The last business model that we've also looked at is a subscription structure, where employees pay a predetermined amount to sign into the platform, and if they don't use it for a given month, the license automatically gets terminated, so we're just getting charged for what we use. Internally, we've integrated this marketplace, shopping cart, payment gateway in 21 different countries, and we comply with all the local billing taxation policies that are in place. We're continuing to experiment with more business models as more and more product lines come along. The next thing that we want to talk about is customer centricity. We asked our employees how do they learn, and the traditional event-driven approaches were like a small dot on the infographic that they put together. They learn from a variety of resources, and that kind of spawned us to launch various different product lines. Let's first start with SmartBits. SmartBits is our LinkedIn publisher forum, and it is our ability to curate one learning nugget and publish it to all our employees around the world. When we started out, we were actually faking it until we made it. What I mean by that is a concept of nightclub effect, which is very prevalent in the social media community building. You probably have never been to a nightclub that was empty and said, I'm going to party. You always went to a happening nightclub. In a very similar way, me and my team would post a learning nugget, get into intense discussion on the social media platform. It did 2 things. It kept the post trending on top, and then it got more eyeballs, and as it got more eyeballs, it maximized the probability of someone responding to it. And I still remember to the day, the first day somebody responded, we actually had a celebration, because it was 6 months after we started doing this that somebody actually responded. We've grown strength to strength. Right now we have 30 contributors and influencers, so employees are beginning to share learning and knowledge amongst themselves. The next thing we launched was videos. Videos is the most popular form we have. We have 22,000 views in less than 30 days. We have MOOC, we have leader videos, YouTube, TED Talks, you name it, it's available on the platform. We're still working through some China-related access challenges, which we believe we will overpower in the next few months here. The next thing was books. Books was really the hardest to integrate, because the books ecosystem is made up of so many vendors and platforms that it's really, really hard to get one reading experience. So what we have done in the sense is create something like a New York Times bestseller list. And so we do advertise books here. Now here's the catch to it. We're again faking our way until we make it. Anything that makes on this list actually makes the bestseller list, so it's a vicious circle that we've created, or a virtuous circle, however you might choose to interpret that. The next thing we did is build our own MOOCs. We had about 5 total MOOCs right now, and one MOOC went extremely viral. We were planning for a 300-member pilot, but one of the employees found it even as we were setting it up and shared it with so many folks that there were 7,000 enrollments overnight. Guess what? There was no pilot. We just launched. We have brimming discussions. Folks ask us about the completion rates vis-a-vis the news that they read on papers about 4% completion rate. We actually have 80% completion rate. The big adjustment we've had to make is to take some of the lessons we had in community building via smart bits and bring it into the GE MOOCs that we created. Next on the list we created is partner MOOCs. We spoke elaborately about the marketplace that we've set up. So many partners provide us with their learning resources, and we make them available to our employees. We're still working through some global pricing challenges. Most vendors provide, or most partners provide, a US-only rate for it, and that begins to diverge in certain countries when you put in the global economic dollar to rupee or dollar to other currency conversion. Mobile, all our MOOCs and our BrilliantYOU platform is available on mobile, but we're testing it. We want to understand if a micro app strategy works or a macro app strategy works. What does that really mean? Do we want to be like Facebook, which is all in one, or do we want to be like Facebook Messenger, which is very focused? So we don't know yet. Some of that will be driven by the testing that we do. Next thing we're talking about is collections academies. The collections are topical collections on curated assets, and academies are functional in nature. So HR would be functional academy. A collection would be something like digital, industrial, or working in an open space. We also have campuses. So we have bigger plans to connect campuses in a much bigger way. Right now, we've just started listing them in one place. Now, here's the big thing. We don't want to leave any opportunity to bring that employee onto the site and communicate and have a conversation. And that's really why we're beginning to create those points. Podcast was recently launched, and we're in the process of launching a Uber for coaching as well. There's more product lines along the way that are coming. As we build this learning store, we didn't want to operate with a sense of entitlement, meaning let's just blast this to all the employees. We wanted to earn them one by one. That was a fundamental ethos that we set out with. So we launched a voluntary email campaign mechanism that employees could sign up. 60,000 employees have signed up. And we are now measuring campaigns just like you probably do in your respective organization when you throw out campaigns to your customers. We have about 4% engagement rate. It's greater than 2% that's prevalent in the industry. And the other thing that we did that was very interesting is we brought in what we call as partners into our smart bits and webinars. We opened up smart bits as a marketing mechanism, webinar as a marketing mechanism to our partners. So they were able to come, and all of a sudden we had the likes of Susan Cain, we had the likes of professors from Stanford showing up and making presentations and connecting with our employees directly. In many ways, we were trained true to our vision of connecting employees to world's best learning. Next thing we want to talk about is data as a differentiator. If you think about Amazon, no Amazon folks are here today, but if you think about Amazon, they started building out by selling products, and then they started looking at the data from that product conversation to further personalize. Very similar playbook. We've built our product lines. Employees are engaging around that product lines. Now we want to start looking at data. So the first type of data that we have is quality and advocacy. So the ratings, the likes, the shares, and the comments, which we use to make future determination on what we would want to build or what partner relationship we want to nourish versus what we want to exit. And we've actually already had exit. We also have insights for continual evolution. I know you can't see this on the chart, but there are terms there that our employees are searching for that I, as a learning leader, have no clue what they're searching for. That is got to be disconcerting because I better be in tune with what my employees are looking for to continue to deliver the value. So that's, and we can go down this path to say which gender, which region, which site, what's trending, and we can get to proactive decision making on some of these things. Now, as we started looking at data, one of the big challenges that came along was how are we going to say what makes the most sense from a data standpoint? So we had defined what we call as overall habit metrics. The traditional Kirkpatrick metrics never worked for us in this particular scenario. So we started looking at our metrics as consumption, engagement, habit, and impact. Logic is simple. Are we putting the right stuff out there? Are people getting moved by what we're putting? And are they coming back and engaging with us again and again? And if they're doing that, are we making an impact? This is a latest piece of news. Just this morning, we exceeded 1 million page views on BrilliantYOU internally. And it's less than a year that we've been out. We have about 111,000 users that have registered into the system. And we have about 7,000 weekly active users. And daily active user is a Facebook metric. We're looking at weekly active users. Look at that measurement called bounce rate, which is the number of times somebody comes on, does one thing on the site, and gets out. We have 38.5% of people demonstrating that behavior. Most people tend to spend more time, at least up to 5 minutes on the platform. And we have 52% returning users. Now, if I zoom out a little bit, this is what we're looking at. We want to have consistent increase in sessions or users and their duration on time. We want more people to come. We want people to keep coming again. And we want people to spend more time on the platform. That's literally what we are after on this. Then we have community growth metrics. The communities begin to build, right? We started out with 5,000 users. We're 111,000 users. And each product line has an impact. And you want to provide that variety to keep people engaged on the platform. Last but not the least, let's talk about two things, the exponential bets that we're making. The first exponential bet we're making is structured data. Very simple. We have about 60,000 folks who subscribe to Get Abstract, and there are about 400,000 downloads that happen any given month. That's a lot of data. So what we're now doing is running it through our data science team to say, hey, can you predict what this person is likely to read so we can send more personalized recommendation? Much like Amazon, and we just did an MVP, minimum viable product, and we got about 60% accuracy. We have some more work to do, but once it matures, we will get out that in a more profound way. Next thing is unstructured data. We have a lot of data sets, be it in your employee resume, be it in their performance feedback, so on and so forth. We're beginning to take that data and say, can we proactively estimate the skills that this person is good at, the skills that this person needs to develop and build, and hopefully at some point build out a skill graph for the company. We are in very, very early stages. We had a breakthrough on how to map using machine learning concepts. We're in very, very early stages, but that's another exponential bet that we're making. The third one, which is not here, is Apple recently opened up Siri to the world. So we're in the process of looking at slowly getting to building that vision where employees can just speak to the phone and say, show me a learning, and we're able to show it to them. All of this just didn't happen. Just like that, we've had our own challenges, and through that, we've had some suggestions. The key thing to note is learning systems and infrastructure are not conducive to this. Everybody builds a platform. Nobody is building up the platform. Learning resources and community is not prepared for this disruption. I think the biggest adoption issues we've had is with our own learning community. Redefining learning metrics and measurement is key. Rethink how you structure the information, right? Most of the times, the learning folks get carried away in using learning terms when they reach the employees. Doesn't really work. You got to think about it from an employee's point of view and then organize and arrange information accordingly. This is a very different way of looking at learning. So you have to consistently and persistently explain it to folks and hope that it is going to stick. It takes time. Don't fall back into the comfort zone, and be ready for the internal system to push back. Lastly, focus on the customer. Keep an eye on imitations. As I say, imitation is the best form of flattery, but imitation with a little bit of innovation or a little bit of improvisation becomes innovation. So you got to keep looking on the customer, because the more customers you have, the imitations will have to catch up to that customer base, and that's really been a fundamental approach of how we've adopted some of these things. That's it. That's what we had for you today. Thank you for joining us, and it was our pleasure to be here representing GE and talk to you about BrilliantYOU. Thank you.